because if I can't hear their voices, then I don't know if that's going to affect the recorder.
Well, you can hear them. You can hear them. They just can't hear you.
No, I actually can't really hear them.
I'm going to take the headphones off so that I don't hear you either.
Okay, but I can only hear you. That's the only thing I can hear. I can't hear them. So,
well, they haven't said anything. Of course you can't hear them. They're not talking.
okay.
Daniel, can you talk?
Yes.
Can you hear that?
Yep, I heard it. Okay, all good. I'll go on mute now. I'll just listen to you guys.
All right.
Carry on.
So,
Por favor.
So we were talking about clinging. Are you clinging right now?
Oh, Dhammarato, I can barely hear you. Like, barely.
You're not clinging right now.
Dhammarato, Robert says that he can barely hear you.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Perfect. Crystal clear.
Say what?
Crystal clear.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right, so we'll just leave the mic right there.
Great.
Well, if you're not clinging now, then what's the worry? The worry is that, oh, I'll cling into the future. Well, most of the clinging is done ignorantly. What does that mean? Is that we're clinging to something and we don't even know we're doing it. So, the whole point of the teaching of Anapanasati is to start looking at what we're doing. If you're clinging, know it. Because if you know what you're doing, you can do something about it. You can make a change if you can see what it is. It's hard to skin a rabbit you can't catch. And it's hard to catch a rabbit if you don't know where it is. But if you know where the rabbit is, then you can catch it. And if you can catch it, you can skin it. Okay, that's what the teaching of the Buddha is that being able to watch where the rabbits are. The rabbits of the mind.
That's the investigation, right?
That's the investigation. To remember, there's rabbits out there. You better pay attention. And if you can see them, you can do something about them. And much of those rabbits are actually our attitudes. So if you have the attitude, I need something, then the rabbit of need will come up. But if you already have the attitude of, I don't need anything, then rabbit needs are unlikely to come up. And so another thing to do then would be to start monitoring your mood. Monitor your state of mind. That, in fact, is written right into the Anapanasati, but we don't really see it. But in the Sita Nupassana part, the third part, it's actually the mind's state, not the mind's objects. So going back to the analogy of the pickup, that it doesn't matter so much about what the pickup is loaded down with. The question is the pickup capable of managing that load? And that's the attitude. In other words, if you put a load on the pickup and it has the wrong attitude, that means that it's going to fall over in the direction that it's leaning. And so actually that's what attitude, scientifically, that's what the word attitude means. It means the direction that things are leaning. And so if you're not leaning at all, then you can handle a whole lot more weight. For instance, in the palm of the hand, if I can put 5-pound load right there on the hand, I can hold that. But if I put 5 pounds on this little finger over here, it's not going to be able to handle it. It's out of balance. So this is basically what we mean then, is that our attitude becomes upright. And the attitude of a victim means that we're leaning strongly in one direction or another. Like I need a drink, or I need a girl, or I need a car, or I need. Whatever it is, it's because the mind is leaning in the direction of it's not okay without it. So if we can bring the mind back up into that place of middle ground, where gravity pulls straight down as opposed to gravity pulling it over to the side. And we are born that way. We are born as victims. You couldn't possibly have it any other way. No newborn kid. In fact, they talked about that as part of the magic of the Buddha. That when he was newly born, he took 7 steps and then roared like a lion or something like that.
He made some claim.
Some kind of magical stuff like that. The fact is that everybody, including Jesus and the Buddha, when they were born as victims. They needed to be taken care of. That when the Buddha's mother died after 7 days, he got the nourishment and the mothering that he needed from his aunt. No newborn kid is going to be able to, pop right out and start having a philosophical argument with the doctor as to whether or not the doctor should be beating the kids on the bottom to get them to take their first breath. No, the baby has no choice about that. I remember when that happened. There I was in a hot tub, dark, beautiful music playing, and all of a sudden the earthquake happens. The bottom dropped out. The next thing I know, Dr. Young is holding me up by the heels, beating me on the ass. Well, I let out a yell so loud and so long, I didn't even stop yelling until I was about 35. That's when I showed up at What's So and Milk, by the way. And I spent a whole lifetime of yelling because I wasn't happy, because I was beaten in the butt by a doctor just to try to get me. I didn't need his help to breathe. I didn't. But that's how we all start out. We start out as a victim. The question is, are you going to remain a victim?
For the first time on retreat ever, I had for a couple of days, for like 3 days, no matter what kind of state my mind got into, I could clean it out and come back into wholesomeness. So I really felt like a lion then.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, there's really nothing I cannot get out of.
Well, that's what happens, in fact. Everybody who goes to a retreat, especially all the students, there's occasionally somebody at the retreat who's not, but almost all the students come into the retreat as a victim. The question is, can you come out of that victimhood in the retreat and leave the retreat as a lion? Or are you going to remain a victim throughout the entire 7 days? Most people remain the victim. They continue to cling. They continue to want things. They don't come to the point of, things are good enough. I'm satisfied. The word Suka actually is a key word, though it's almost never used. I bet he didn't use the word Suka once in that retreat.
No.
Do you know what the word Suka actually means? Well, you can look at it and see that, in fact, Suka and Dukkha must be opposites. I know for sure in even the Gujarati language, Dukhi and Sukhi are opposite. In the Thai language, Duk and Suk are opposites. In the Pali, Dukkha, Sukha are opposites. So, what we need to do is to practice. If you're going to come out of Dukkha, why don't we practice getting into Sukha? That's the whole point, is coming into a state of Sukha. And Sukha, I think, is in fact step 6 of Anapanasati, right there in the sutta. It's about developing Sukha. Well, what is Sukha?
Contentment.
Hmm?
Contentment.
Well, actually, in the Pali dictionary that I've read, it has actually several words that mean something. One is that it has a state of the feeling of um, safety and security. Now, safety and security are different than fearlessness. So you have fear on one side, and then you have safety and security on the other. But somewhere in between is this thing called fearlessness, which means that there is a danger and you got to go take care of it. As opposed to there is a danger and it's going to get me. But this feeling that we want to develop is the feeling of it ain't danger at all. It's not dangerous. Danger is just a thought that I had. That's the unwholesome thought. This is dangerous. So, a better thought would have is I'm out of here. This is not dangerous. So we don't develop the word, by the way, in the Pali is abhaya, and abhaya is translated as fearlessness because it's the opposite of fear, except that fearlessness is not the opposite of fear. It's closer to bravery in the face of fear. What we're looking for is a true opposite of fear, is not at all afraid. I feel safe. I feel secure. So that's Suka. Dukkha is not abhaya in the sense of being fearless in the face of fear. Suka is there's no fear. There's nothing to be afraid of. Yeah, I'll let that cobra bite me. I'm all right. But if I have that attitude, then the cobra's probably not going to strike. It's only if I want to fight with him. You just stop. Then that's the way to do it, is just to stop. And so the point about Suka then is the state of being, all right, I'm okay. There's nothing to fear. And with that comes comfort. I can get back into a state of comfortableness. And from that state, the final point is satisfaction. Now, in fact, the correct definition of dukkha is not suffering, it's dissatisfaction. So, if you're laid up in the hospital, let us say that the story is that you're doing a slalom, you're downhill going on your skis, and all of a sudden you do something wrong, and you wind up hitting a big barrel of gasoline that happens to go off. And so now, because you've hit it, you've broken every bone in your body or nearabouts, and also you're on fire. But you don't die. They get you to the hospital, and now they can't put you in a body cast because you got all these burns, but they do something with traction or whatever like that. Okay, so you're talking about huge amount of sensations of broken bones, wounds, and burns, right? Is that suffering?
That sounds like suffering, yeah.
That'll do. Until I can come up with a better definition of suffering, intense pain all over the body will do, right? But the real point is that it's not that it's suffering in that sense, is that we don't like it. We intentionally don't like it. We intentionally don't like being burned. We intentionally don't like having all of our bones broken and all the muscles bruised. We don't like it. That is dukkha. It's the not liking. But most of the dukkha is not. I mean, how many of you have ever been in that? This is just a story. It's just a concept. You've not actually been in the hospital with burns and broken bones, have you?
Yeah.
I have.
You've been on a lot of motorcycles too, so this sounds like a personal story.
Yeah, look at that leg. It's both burned and broken. In fact,
Yeah.
this wound here in the back is where that other smaller bone came right out the back of it.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So, guess what? When it happened, It didn't hurt. But in the back of the pickup truck, riding to the hospital, it began to hurt.
You had the adrenaline rush.
Right. Shock.
Yeah.
Well, when the shock wears off, the pain comes. But we call it pain because we don't like it. And so that's the real point, is that we don't like it. That is the dukkha, is being dissatisfied with the situation as it is. Don't like it. So Suka is in the state of, well, you do like it. You're satisfied with it. It's good enough. Can you develop that state to where everything is okay? In fact, I imagine all four of you are sitting here. Yeah, this is okay. Sitting here listening to a humorous Dhamma talk. It's okay. Not a problem. No worries. And so you're already in that state of dukkha nirodha. You're not in the state of suffering right now at all. But I bet on the retreat, there were times when you were in a state of dissatisfaction. You didn't like your posture. You didn't like it because the bell didn't ring. You wanted out of here. It wasn't comfortable. Were you in that state?
Every once in a while.
Every once in a while, yeah, it comes up. How about you, Daniel? Were you in that state? Yeah. You didn't like it in the moment.
Right.
How about you, Rick? Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. So what do you do about it? How about you, Carl?
Had some deep clinging.
All right. Well, don't you recognize in when you go into those states of not liking that you've got a choice? I mean, you made the choice of not liking it.
Mm-hmm.
But we do that ignorantly because who would wisely make a choice of not liking something?
When I remembered it, it was so obvious to me. and then I couldn't see it anymore, and I got back into. When I saw it, I was like, yeah, there cannot be any other way than to be satisfied right now. But you keep forgetting it.
This was something that happened to me too.
Yeah.
And I started using the thought, it's okay to forget.
Yeah.
Because we can often be hard on ourselves for forgetting, which causes even more dukkha.
I like that.
But if we remember that, yeah, forgetting happens. We're human. It's part of the path.
Yeah.
That's right. That's one of the common things that students do is that they will start practicing correctly and then they'll forget. Goenka talks about it that when the mind wanders away, never mind, start again. But when the mind wanders away, we don't know it. But when we then recognize that the mind has wandered away, that's when we start doing mental karate on ourselves. That's when we start beating ourselves up. Oh, you shouldn't be letting the mind wander away. Oh, you forgot. What kind of dude are you? I mean, you're in a retreat. You're supposed to remember to be happy. So the question is can you come back out of that state too? So it actually takes kind of two different satis. One is to recognize that the mind has wandered away, and then number two sati is to recognize that's okay. I remembered this time. Now I remember. So congratulate yourself for remembering rather than fussing at yourself for having forgotten. Because you've been fussing at yourself for having forgotten thousands of times. That's the habit. Easy to fall into. And so the right way to look at it is that when the mind wanders away and you forget, that's okay. I remember now. Now, whew, what a relief it is that I'm easy on myself.
I like how the guy passed with like a Rocky music, and this to me goes in if you're in a boxing match and you take a punch and you're like, oh, I took a punch, now I keep taking another punch, I'm gonna keep taking these punches forever, and you never get back into the fight, never bring up that attitude, oh wait, I can actually handle it, I'm still alive, I took a punch, but I'm still going forward. It's that kind of bringing back the attitude again into the
Actually, yes. That's an interesting analogy. Have you ever heard of the concept or the thing that the good trainer will say that if you get knocked down, if you get knocked out, don't get back up immediately. Wait for the count of 9. Have you ever heard that?
No.
Okay. Why do we wait for the count of 9? Is to collect our mind together again, to come back into the attitude of, I can do this, I can handle this. Not only that, but you've got the count of 9 to rest. Take a few deep breaths, everything is okay, and then when the count of 9 comes, you go, bang!
You're ready for the Dukkha.
Yeah, you're ready for it now. Okay, so this is the way that we can handle it, is that slow down, take it easy. Yeah, I just knocked myself out because I forgot. Never mind. Okay, I'm ready. That's the way to do it. But a lot of the meditation teachers don't teach it that way because they are already to the point of, oh, you're not supposed to cling. But that's the rule. But everybody clings. So take it easy. It's okay that you cling. Know when you cling because then you have a choice to come out of the clinging. You know you've got a heavy load, it's okay to drop it. And yeah, you'll pick up another load later, but you've already gotten to the habit of dropping it.
Even when I remember to do this, I have those thoughts, and sometimes I get into a state of satisfaction, and sometimes it just seems to miss. But I guess it's just like one moment, mind moment of satisfaction, and then instant dukkha. So it seems like it doesn't do anything, and
But if you're aware, you can say, I see that too. Never mind, start again.
right.
That happens as well because that attitude, you don't keep up with the attitude of feeling the attitude. It's you congratulate yourself, but then you have to follow up with a feeling. Oh wait, I just got rid of it, and that feeling carries to the next moment. The next moment.
Yeah.
Feeling is very important.
It's so simple, but it's to do it consistently.
When you see the words, right? So you say it's hard to do consistently, but if you see that it's not hard to do consistently, if you feel it, right? You say the words, but feel it. Is it that hard? Is it really that hard when you feel it?
Everything's easy peasy right now.
There you go. That's where you bring it. It's not vocabulary as we explained. This is heaven, right? It's not a vocabulary.
Yeah, that's what I felt as well, that I should do more with the feeling instead of the thinking. And when I did that, it became a lot easier.
Well, going back to the point then about the distinction between the anima, the animus, the yin, the yang, the masculine, the feminine, you can think of it, especially in our society, Western society, that thinking is scientific. That there's a distinction between the head and the heart. And that we're not nearly enough heart-oriented. But deep inside, we know that. That's where the clinging comes from, is because it's really all about feeling anyway.
There was a really good Ajahn Sumedho quote, similar to what you're saying at the retreats. And in the quote, he talks about we have the mind, the heart, and the body, and you can use that as a chart for the practice. And, we have the thinking and the feeling and the instinct working together harmoniously, not one
bossing the others.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, basically, that's how we're born as in the state of victimhood, is because the instincts are primary. We run completely by instinct. We're not thinking, and we're not feeling so much. Or the feelings that we do have are based upon instinct. And people can grow up and still live their lives instinctively. But in fact, this is the, you've heard the Western concept of critical thinking versus just accepting. Well, that means instinctual, that we just accept things. For instance, I don't know what that guy looks like. He's got a turban on. He must be dangerous. You know, it's those instincts of, if I don't know it, it must be dangerous. And so if we can then develop the head so that we can see more clearly, then we can begin to take over the instincts from the head, but we still are missing that part of the emotion. We haven't been able to educate our emotions to the point that we can feel the way that we want to feel. That's the part that's missing. And so the whole point then is to get the adult, the thinking part, in gear so that it can give the feelings what they want. And those two are working closely together and overcome the instinct, overcome the all of the ways things should be and all of that. And then the mind becomes whole or integrated, because the rules don't run your life anymore, the way things are supposed to run, the instinctive way that we see things, that we can see things clearly, and then we can feel. So now that we've got all three of those things in harmony with each other, that's what's called the samadhi mind. That's when we're completely well balanced. And that many of the retreats, especially if they're taught by a Westerner, they're still coming from that scientific, you got to get it right mentality, which is only still trying to educate the scientific part of the mind. And what the real teaching of the Buddha is that we got to educate the emotional side. It's the Vedana, it's the way that we feel, so that we can balance correctly. And if you feel good, then what else do you need? If you're satisfied, isn't that enough? And in fact, if you feel satisfied over and over and over again, doesn't that give you a sense of accomplishment, a sense of success? And when you have success over and over again, doesn't that then give you the feeling of wealth? You've got plenty. You're overflowing with beneficial things. So we start off kind of empty in a sense of deprivation. And eventually we come to the feeling of being wealthy, but we still are empty. There's also, that happens with ignorance. You know that ignorance starts with paticca samuppada. It's actually part of the second noble truth. But in fact, if you go through all 10 fetters, ignorance is the last fetter, it's the highest one. Why is that? Why is it both the deepest and the last to go? That's where we start, and that's where we end, is with ignorance. Okay? But this is the way that happens. We start with a vast amount of ignorance. And as we improve, as we gain knowledge, as we gain strength of mind, and as we gain power over our feelings, the ignorant feeling inside gets very small, so that we can accept the fact that we don't know so much. We don't know. I mean, I've never formed a star. I don't know how they're formed. Not really. I can talk about what the scientists say about it. But guess what? I don't care. Who knows what the future is going to be of the stock market? The answer is I'm going to be okay. I don't care. And so what we do is we leave that vast amount of ignorance because we don't have to know everything. And yet when we are raised in the kind of school system that we are, every child thirsts for knowledge. We have a thirst for knowledge. I got to know. I want to know. I want to know. I want to know. And we continue to learn, but we don't ever come to the full state of this satisfaction. I know enough. There's always more to learn. But you have also heard the story that the truly wise man knows how ignorant he is. It's only the idiots who think they know everything. And so we wind up being acceptance, even of our ignorance. There's so much to know. Guess what? I don't need it. I can be happy. I've got enough. That's where the quality of enough comes in. Because people, I mean, how many of you can imagine, at least in the retreat that you guys were just in, that a lot of people were confused. They wanted to know what to do now. What is this? You can ask the teacher, okay? A lot of people have a lot of confusion. And yet what Reinhardt was telling you was enough just to sit there and watch the breath, make some changes. That's all you need to do. That was enough.
Make some changes. He didn't mention that.
It's
But-
the impermanence of things. Just watch the impermanence of things, how they come and go, and that's basically.
Isn't that a change from being ignorant of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all based upon a change model. The question is this enough change? Can you come to enough? The answer to that is right now is enough. I know how to practice correctly. I don't have to know the answer to every question. And yet I have had students that just ask question after question after question when they've already got all they need. But they don't feel satisfied because they want to know more. You've all been in that state. I want to know more. I want to know more. I want to know more. When are you ever going to come to the point of, I know enough? This is enough.
That's like, wow, we were talking about that as well on the way here, how the teachings of meditation were portrayed one way there, and you enter it with what we already know and learned to Anapanasati, and then we're kind of comparing. So I found myself first 1 or 2 days is experimenting with what is being said by them and trying to put this concentration in practice, and then like, it is not really as good as this other thing that I have going on. Why am I even questioning it so much? Why am I not just doing what I know works best for me? Why am I not trusting myself enough to know that this is the way to go because of the feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Not because it's being said by them mentally, verbally, but because the feeling. I know I already come in happy into retreat. As we talked, I came in happy and I was feeling happy meditating. So that's what I found a lot in the retreat.
Well, the retreats are taught basically to people as if they had never heard the first word of Dhamma. And you guys have gone into the retreat with at least enough already. So you've gone beyond that first retreat. But Reinhardt's got to start someplace with the brand new students. And the fact that you've got more information makes you hopefully better off rather than confused.
Yeah, I was really glad that I was able to follow your teachings before I went into the retreat, because I don't know I don't know how I would have fared if it was just like only that.
Daniel. Set your cell phone on that over here.
This one.
No, right there, the ironing board.
Ah,
Set your phone
that's
on
a
the
good one.
ironing board and plug it in.
Perfect.
Very aware.
Yes, so we have to have the right attitude that there is really nothing wrong with the retreat. And you would have known that if you had gone into it completely ignorantly. But now that you've got more knowledge, more practice going on, it's actually quite easy to judge the teacher. It's sort of like, here's an example. The college professor who had just got his PhD in mathematics and computer science from MIT comes to a university to teach. And that he's got a big face on because he's teaching a level of mathematics that's well beyond what the students would teach in their first grade. In fact, he would look down on the first grade teacher because all she can teach is numbers and arithmetic at best, where he's PhD. But then you'll have the old professor who has been teaching around a lot, and he fully appreciates the first grade teacher, because if the kids hadn't gone through the first grade, they wouldn't be ready for the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed new MIT PhD in mathematics. They wouldn't be ready for him. But it takes a bit of maturity to recognize in this regard is that we have to give Reinhardt a big-hearted congratulations, because he's starting people at the very beginning. But you already know quite a lot yourself. So you can take what you do know, a little bit deeper teaching of the Dhamma, and put that into practice even while you're doing your retreat. Because the real issue is, can you enjoy the retreat? And why? Can you enjoy it? If you're going to enjoy the retreat, you can enjoy anything.
I enjoyed it, for sure.
Enjoy it without judging. Enjoying it without comparing what this teacher said and what that teacher says, and they don't mix or they don't match. Rather, to take it from the position that basically Buddhism is taught in two different frames of reference. It's taught in the beginning to ordinary people in an ordinary way. And that would be the way that I would ordinarily teach it, until I had conversations with Ajahn Po, and he says, no, go ahead like Bhikkhu Buddhadasa and teach right from the supramundane, right from the top, right from the noble. There will be students who understand. Those are the students that you want to teach, or those who are at the top already. And so in a way, from Reinhardt, he's teaching ordinary students. That in fact, you probably have recognized that most of the students in that retreat at Depabhavan were probably tourists. They were in Thailand for pleasure. And so they took the retreat because that's the thing to do, right? Must be some pleasure in there someplace, and it's cheap. And then they wind up in a boot camp, because the boot camp is really in their mind. They don't like it because there's nothing happening. They're used to, in fact, they came to Thailand for something. And then they go to the retreat for something, and they wind up that they've got a whole lot of nothing. About the only thing that you get out of retreat is a bell. And the bell rings, and you don't want to go, and then the bell rings. Wow, what a relief it is! And then the bell rings, and you got to go. And so you're up, down, up, down, up, down. That bell runs your life. until you recognize that, until you can see that. Then you can say, oh, the bell doesn't mean a thing. The bell ring is all empty. Doesn't mean a thing. That what matters is, when the bell rings, how do I feel? Learn to control your feelings. That's what it's really all about. Because that's where the dukkha is. The dukkha is that you feel dissatisfied. Can you come back to feeling satisfied? This is good enough. Very simple teaching.
Yeah, it's really so simple.
This is enough. Good enough. Not nearly the end of knowledge, but it's all the knowledge you need. It's the knowledge to be happy right now. So what else did Reinhardt teach? I mean, he talked for an hour every day or more.
Probably my favorite thing that he did was the Wheel of Life, Teacher Centered Podcast.
Yeah, that was good.
Oh, they drug that old Tonka out.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I've seen those. There's at Watso and Moke, they've got several really, really big ones. There's one of them that is, David's not here, but he's been to Watso and Moke.
Yeah.
At the Spiritual Theater, they've got a giant one.
Mm.
In the old hall, there's one. They also have one in the retreat, and so I would not be surprised at all if they don't have it. Now, at the top of the Tonka, you'll see a bear just grabbing with his paws and his teeth, and he's holding the thing up, right? And then you have the circle. Well, those, the drawings, the pictures inside of that circle are emotional drawings. They're artwork. And yet when we see them, we read them scientifically.
Mm.
And because of that, we don't quite understand what that wheel of dependent origination is. It's actually not necessarily a wheel, but it's depicted as a wheel.
Yeah.
That in fact, if there is any wheelness like it, it's that it goes all the way around and then we come through it backwards.
Mm.
That we're taught it forwards from this causes this, causes this, causes this. But we actually practice it backwards in the sense of things happen sequentially over time. How quick are you? And when you're slow, it's going to be all the way to the end of the cycle. For instance, most ordinary people are in dukkha. They don't even know that they've gotten there. But on occasions, people do recognize that they've gone too far. The example of that was when husband and wife were having a fight. And then one of them will see that they've gone too far. I've said too much. I've either hit my wife or I've insulted her too much and she's starting to cry or whatever like that. Okay, so eventually we'll see the dukkha. Then we'll stop. The guy will slam the door on his way out. And that's the end of that tale. But if he is wise, he will recognize when he is in the argument and put a stop to it before he goes too far. And then he was a little sharper than that. He'll see, oh, this is an argument, let's finish it. And then if he's sharper than that, he will say, oh, I disagree with my wife, but there's no reason to argue with her. And if he's sharper than that, he can say, oh, she said something and I didn't like it. And if we're sharper than that, come down a step, oh, she said something and look what I did with it. I perceived it, and then I didn't like it, and then that hit me, and then I had feelings, and then I started to cling, and then I started to shout, and then I started to hit, right? And so along the way, we can come down to back to the fact of, oh, my wife said something.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to practice it backwards, is so we can see things before it goes too far. But when we see it in that realm, and then we see it scientifically, we say, oh, it's a circle, which means that dukkha leads to ignorance.
Mm.
Well, doesn't it? Doesn't, in fact, the snake bite its own tail?
Yeah.
That when we are really in bad feelings and dukkha, aren't we really stupid? And then we start a cycle all over again. But the real point about the dependent origination is that it's our ignorance that, based upon all of our past stuff, that when we hear the